This is Stephanie.
This is Andre.
And this is Table for Four, a family conversation podcast. How is everybody doing? It was a hot one today.
Yes, it is.
It was 97 and it felt like 107. Ooh, wait.
Get close to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think my loud mouth would reach it over here. No, it would it not. Am I good?
Yeah,
you hear me good?
Sound better.
I sound better. How is everything going?
Everything's good today.
Everything is good today. We're looking at it's already August. It's already school is about to start.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Kids start next week.
Wednesday.
Next week. Next week, Wednesday.
Jesus Christ. But talking about that, we have an exciting episode for you guys today. Today's special guest is another fellow podcaster. Her name is Paulette. And she is from the Maker Muse podcast. We've had the pleasure of meeting Paulette at the podcast movement back in March when we went in California when we went for the convention. And she literally came up to us, she says, we got to stick together.
Yeah, us Latinos
got to stick together. And right away, her bubbly personality. And it's always a joy to see her on social media for sure. I personally listen to the Maker Muse on Spotify. So that's where I listen to. So I'm super excited to have her on the podcast today. Andres, tell us a little bit more about Paulette.
Yeah, Paulette's podcast, better known as the Maker Muse, has a mission to inspire you to rediscover your confidence and power through your own unique creativity. As a former photographer, food blogger, and multi-passionate creative, she's on a mission to make the world a better, more creative place. How will she do that? By breaking you from self-doubt and imposter syndrome so you can confidently achieve your goals. And she just recently launched her second season of the Making Muse podcast, where you can find it on all platforms.
Super exciting. She's about to drop about, 12 episodes, and it's going to be focusing on today's topic, on child-free Latinas. So she was able to talk with us today. I'm super excited. Hello, Paulette. What's going on?
Hello, my friends.
How is everything?
Oh man, how are you? How are you dealing with this heat?
We're not good.
Not good, right? It's not good. It's not good.
I don't know why I wore this.
No, but it's cold in the house. That's okay. It's cold in the house. Yeah. But it's not cold outside.
Yeah. Oh, hey, by the way, it's Arado with one T.
Oh, is it one T? Oh, come on, Steph.
I did it. Wait a minute. Did I mess it up? I sure did.
No,
that was my fault. That was your fault. I knew the right spelling. The producer.
There we go.
The producer,
awesome. Thank you.
I did it correctly. What are you talking about?
It's funny, and I went to the website too just to double check.
My
apologies.
Making us look bad. We can't even do that. Paulette, tell us what's going on.
Oh man, you two are too funny. My face is hurting already. We've been doing this for a minute. 1 minute. My face is going to fall apart. No. It's all good. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about being a child-free Latina. It's a weird thing, I think, because it's not talked about. So it's my mission to talk about it. And that's what this season of the podcast is about. I'm bringing stories from 9-10 other women about being a child-free Latina, because we're minorities within minorities. And it's this really weird space, given the way the U.S. is right now, all the fun. And so it's just kind of timely. But also, child-free people exist, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's not something I ever felt like I had to validate for myself or my family. I was very lucky in that respect, given that I got a father who's older than a boomer. He's the silent generation, so they're very old school. But I have a lot of cousins from that older part of the family that didn't have kids either. So it's kind of like they paved the way for me to just be me and live this life. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I've never talked to them about why they didn't have kids. They just didn't. And it wasn't weird. It just was different. And so when it was me being like, oh, wait, I don't want to do that either. Nobody looked at me sideways and was like, what's wrong with you? And so I think I'm very lucky. The conversations I've had with the other women who are going to come up in this podcast this season. So the season is putting a spotlight on other child-free Latinas who are proving in their own lives, just by living their lives, that child-free Latinas exist. We aren't weird. We aren't crazy. We're just different. We're normal people and we're thriving. And that is not a narrative that you see in popular culture at all. And so we're just kind of proving that, hi, we exist and this is just us. We're just telling our stories.
You're here to stay.
And that's it.
And
Right.
we're here to stay.
We're here to stay. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, this life is a good life.
It is. It is. But Paulette, I have to throw a question out to you. We got to do a little icebreaker. What are your thoughts on Roe versus Wade? What are your thoughts? I know. Let's take a deep breath because we're trying to promote choice. And I think that was one of the great thoughts that you spoke about in your latest episode, that there are boundaries and there are hard lines when it comes to making decisions in our lives and how we choose to do that. So how does Roe versus Wade come into play, contradicting everything?
Yeah. Okay. Look, I have extreme privilege in my personal situation. I'm 44 years old. I am married to someone who also did not want children. It wasn't even a discussion point. We were just like, yep, we're on this page. We live in California where our healthcare is available. We were able to take steps medically to ensure that children were not part of the equation. Okay. So for me, Roe versus Wade does not affect me directly. However, it affects all of us. This is a medical procedure we're talking about. That's all it is. It's like having a tooth removed. And if people want to go in and legislate what I can do with my own damn teeth, like that's a problem. That is a problem. If I said to you, Andre, I got to take those molars from you, or no, you have to keep those molars, even though they're like digging into your mouth and crowding everything around and making it impossible for you to eat. That is such a ridiculous idea. And you just extend that to a different body part. So I am worried for all of the people coming after me who don't have my privilege, who don't have the ability to be sterilized, who don't have the choice in making these decisions. They need to be protected, and not just the binary men and women, but everyone in between. Like when we start taking medical decisions out of the hands of a patient and their doctor, and you're just letting the government in to make decisions about what you can do with your body, that is a scary, scary time.
It's a very scary thing.
This season was recorded over the summer, and it had to be shifted around and things like that because I got COVID. A couple of my guests got COVID, so things got pushed. And you can't talk when you have COVID. You sound very, very bad.
Anything in between.
I couldn't talk. I couldn't think. Oh my God, it was terrible. But anyway.
Man.
I got COVID the day after the decision came down, and I had 2 podcast interviews scheduled for that day. One of them we pushed, and I reached out to both of them and I said, given what's happened this morning, do you want to move forward? I'm available if you want to, but if you think you need time to digest this and today isn't the day to be having a conversation, that's okay too. Let's push it. And one of the people said, no, I'm angry. We got to talk about it. Let's do it today. And the other one said, yes, thank you. We'll push it. We'll pick it up some other time. And the conversation I had with that woman that day was, can I cuss? I know this is a family friendly. Okay. I want to stay in the parameters of the family friendly realm. It was fucking fire.
I believe it.
And it comes out in a few weeks. It's going to be like the 4th episode of the season, I want to say. And I don't want to give too much away, but the woman I interviewed isn't even an American. She's from Colombia. She was in Lisbon at the time. So she wasn't near here, this like immediate
She wasn't
area.
even in the vicinity.
And she's not even a United States citizen. And she had so much emotion around it and about what that meant for the rest of Latin America. And we're sitting here thinking, oh shit, we live here. We're not even realizing the ramifications around the world.
Absolutely.
And that was a real eye opener.
When the decision came down, the first thing that came to thought was, what happens now? If they are able to trickle down these decisions, what other decisions on other things will they be able to do or limit? At that point, I'm over here thinking the worst. They're telling me.
But the problem is, like, we're like the only country that's having these issues right now. Everyone else is just looking at us.
Look at these fools.
Yeah, they're looking at us.
Colombia.
It's just.
She told me that Colombia had just put into their constitution that abortion is legal.
No
way. 3 months prior. Yeah. So here we are, like moving backwards, and the rest of the world's like,
they're like, we're like the laughing stock of the world.
Look at these knuckleheads over here. What's going on with them over there? I don't know.
Here's what's getting me through it. I'm hoping, one, that this is temporary. Like this was like a misstep.
Or rash decision.
Right? That the people who are coming up behind these fools are going to fix this mess, that the next generation of people is smarter and about codifying these laws around privacy and the way medicine should be done. And let's do away with the whole damn insurance scam. But now we're going off on a different tangent. I'm just hoping that this is a temporary step backwards. That's what I'm hoping, that this is not a harbinger of things to come and more rights and freedoms being eliminated.
And that was the fear that I had, for sure. If they're willing to do this, what else is next? But Paulette, I want to jump right into it. I want to talk about how us parents, how can we support our friends that are child-free?
Thank you so much for asking this question.
And I only ask because I feel like we live in the middle, because I know we have children, but I like to say we still live like adult lives. Is that the right term of using?
We do,
right? Because we still see...
We're very inclusive.
Yeah.
With the kids.
And we're very exclusive without them too. So...
And that's great. That's great. I mean, I think if you're living your best life, more power to you. But I really do appreciate you asking this question, because it's so often phrased as an us versus them situation where there is no us versus them. I just don't have kids. You could be left-handed and I'm right-handed, and it's the same difference. We're not on opposite sides of an argument. We're not on opposite teams. I have children in my life that I feel responsible for. And they mean a lot to me. If something were to happen to them, it would be devastating for me too. They just didn't come from my body. So, and I don't speak for all child-free people. Let's be very clear. I don't speak for all child-free people. I don't speak for all child-free Latinas. I am not one of those child-free people that hates kids. I don't like when kids encroach on certain adult areas, like let's say breweries, but that's a me problem. That's not a children's problem. Like I got to get my attitude right. If I see kids at a brewery, it's like, okay, well, we'll just sit opposite them. Right. But what I have found is that I have naturally gravitated towards friends who didn't have kids either. So I know that those people are out there, right? And so that's hopefully giving some hope to other child-free people listening to this that are like, where are the rest of the people like me? It's not an us versus parents dynamic. Lots of parents in my life. But the difference, I think, is that they're like you. They don't see themselves as just the parents of their children. They have identities outside of that.
Yes.
No, they don't. And I think that might be hard for some people to hear, that you can be both a mother or father and your own person. And I think that's where some of the friction comes from, people who are like, consider someone like me selfish, as opposed to just self-aware. Like, this was a boundary for me. I don't want children, so I'm not going to saddle children with the resentment that I would have towards them if I had them. I'm aware that's a boundary for me. And boundaries are good. Knowing your boundaries, knowing your limits, that is peak adulting.
Right. There's nothing wrong with not wanting children. That still doesn't make you unfit to be a parent. You can still not want kids and still be an amazing aunt and uncle.
Which I think I am.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of, like I said, we know plenty of people that if they do have kids, we'll know they'll be great parents.
Right.
But some people just choose not to have kids. Like we were a couple that we didn't want any kids.
Yeah. We had a conversation early on and we were like, no, we didn't want kids. I don't know how quickly that turned.
In my case, it wasn't because I didn't want kids, only because I felt like I wasn't financially established to support kids. We're kind of good, but like
I'm kidding. You know what? It's like living with inflation, living with all these costs. Everything is going up. It's like, will we ever be ready? And I think that's always the fear of parenthood. Is like, will we ever be ready? Will I ever be good enough?
Right.
But I think the point that Paulette's saying is that there's people that made that choice, that hard choice. Well, it's not a hard choice, but it's a choice that they made, and it's a boundary. Yeah, it's a hard limit. That's the right word. So they've chosen that path, but I feel like they get ridiculed for picking that path. Is that am I kind of like on the?
Well, it could be for obvious reasons. It could be a career. You know, like they don't want any setbacks to further their career.
But you could still be.
It could be financial, maybe because they don't have enough money. How are they going to support if they can't even support themselves?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to support another mouth to feed? That was like my main thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But meanwhile, like growing up, we always write these stories and listening to your podcast. It's true. Like I grew up writing. Oh, I'm going to have 2 kids, 2 dogs. Every time you do like
the
a
nuclear
self-bio,
family.
you
nuclear
always
family.
look for that nuclear family.
Yeah.
And I remember when I did a report, I feel like I kind of like foretold my future because it said 2 kids living in Pennsylvania, and then I had 2 dogs. But now we're in New York. We're still in New York. 2 dogs, 2 kids before,
and a partridge in a pear tree,
and a podcast about it too. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the other monkey wrench I want to throw into the situation. I don't feel like I actively made a choice. I feel like I was born this way, and I don't know if that's true for other people. So it's not like I ever consciously was like, It just kind of like evolved over time. I told this story on the podcast where I talk about my own story. It was called, Yes, It's Normal to Not Want Kids or Not Want Children, something like that, where I was like, okay, I know I'm young, but I don't really see myself as a mom. And I talked with an older person who was a teacher. She was my photo teacher in college. She didn't have kids, and she was then the age I am now. So this is about 22 years ago. She was in her mid 40s, and she said, I didn't want kids. If you can get past the point where all of your friends seem to be having kids and like your biological clock starts ticking, if you can get past that, you'll be fine. Then you'll know it's for real. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Fine. So then she said it was around 27 came and went. My friends had kids. I never felt that desire. I still have never felt that desire into my 40s now. And so I was like, I'm just different. I'm just different. So yes, I did actively try to avoid having children. I did everything in my power to avoid finding myself in that situation. But I feel also like my body made that decision. Like I came out of the womb with curly hair, brown eyes, and right-handed. I didn't decide one day to be right-handed. I didn't decide to have curly hair. I also didn't decide not to have kids. I just decided to ensure it wouldn't happen.
So, but did you ever think about it as an option, like growing up, as having like that nuclear family with kids?
Absolutely, because that's the script you're fed,
like,
right? I got baby dolls to play with as a little girl. Another thing I mentioned in that podcast episode is that while I'm one of the younger ones on my father's side, I'm the oldest one on my mom's side of all of us kids who are here in the US, because my mom's from Mexico. And I kind of had to like be the role model for them, right? And that's a lot of responsibility for kids. And when I went away to college, this is when I like really started seeing your eyes get opened up to a bigger world than the bubble you grow up in. And I started questioning a lot of things. And I was like, where do kids fit into this equation? Like my parents want me to be this like super independent woman who's got all her shit together. Where does the husband and kids fit in that everybody else is telling me I also have to have? It was very confusing. And so I'm like, no, I don't want to be a role model. I don't want to be in charge. I just want to be me. I just want to be me. And me is this curly haired Latina who doesn't have children. That's all. It's not like I made a big statement. I made a huge statement about how I didn't want to go to that college anymore. I didn't want to go to school on the East Coast anymore. That was a big, like my parents were like, what the fuck is happening?
Like, what is going on?
I don't want to go to school there anymore. That was the big fight. Me having kids, it was like, okay.
That's so funny because listening to the podcast too, you made a great point about the Latino culture. We are very family centered. So it's always about thinking
it's a
about.
mixture though.
You think it's
yeah,
a mixture?
because I have plenty of cousins in my family, older cousins that have no kids. They're in their late 40s and 50s.
But
I have family friends.
No, but you say that, but are they questioned all the time?
No. Well, my
not
older
anymore.
cousins, they were male. They're male. So
See?
when it comes to male,
different.
when it comes to male, nobody questions males.
See?
But our sister-in-law, she gets questioned all the time.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because she's a female.
Because she's a female. That's
and then,
what it
also
is.
I have plenty of cousins back in El Salvador. I think a few of the females don't have any kids, and they're like, we're about to be 40 in like another year or two.
Mm-hmm. Who you talk about, them or us?
Them.
Okay.
My female cousins. And I don't, like I said, I'm not there to know if they get questioned about it or not, but I don't question it.
99.9% they're being questioned. Oh, ¿por qué no tiene hijo todavía? ¿Por qué no está casada? You already know. Stop it.
You got to remember, like times have changed.
Stop it.
Well,
you know they're
being
BS.
Let's hope for their sake they're not getting questioned. And let's hope for their sake that, it is less of an issue in their families. It wasn't an issue on mine. It was an issue on my husband's side. But my husband is from the mid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Luckily, he has a brother who'd already had children when we met. But his mother was not really thrilled with the idea of her little baby not having kids, which is weird.
Weird for her or weird for him?
For me. Weird for me. It was weird for me because he and I were so on the same page, and apparently he just never filled his parents in. So she actually...
They were on the secret that she didn't know about.
Right.
So at our engagement party, she was talking about it. And I talked about this on the episode too, how like both of my bridesmaids were moms. One is my sister-in-law. They have 2 beautiful kids. I love those children to death. I would fight to the death for them. But both of them jumped in. We're like, not everyone has to have kids. Motherhood isn't for everyone. And I was just sitting back. I did not ask for this kind of defense. These were just my people. My people were like, we got this. As moms, we've got this. And I think that's, to answer your question, how can you support your child-free friends? That is an example of support. The other thing I would ask is that when you see that interaction happening, like, why aren't you having kids? Like, why is that a question that is the default to ask? Why is that okay to ask? Some people can't have kids, and we shouldn't be asking that question, assuming that everyone can.
Right.
There are some people for whom being a parent is a wish that they really have that they will never get to realize in the way that they wanted to, the way they expected to, maybe. And that's a hurtful point of conversation for them. So I would really love for, just as a society, to eradicate the idea that everybody's supposed to be a parent. So your default question is, oh, when are you having kids?
And it's so funny because when thinking about those type of questions, I mean, all right. For me personally, I have been asked on several occasions, when will I have another child? And here's the thing. I've already
you got a third child money?
No.
I would ask them that.
But here's has always been the question, right? So it's already been established that we already have 2 kids, right?
Our question, is always, when are we going to have the girl?
The girl. That was what we're always questioned.
Like, you could order it up like it's a freaking McDonald's.
Can I get a number 3 with extra cheese or something?
Like what happens the third? Like I said, don't get me wrong, boy or girl, it's fine. But I would definitely like a daughter because I always wanted that daddy's girl feeling. That's for me. That's me. But chances are, like, what if the third's a boy, the fourth's a boy, the fifth's a boy, the sixth's a boy?
I'm sorry, you ran out of luck. I don't know what you're talking about. The next one.
I have friends who have 5 or 6 boys. And then the 7th is the girl.
I don't know. They
got a whole squad.
No, but I think
a whole squad to play basketball.
No.
3 versus 3.
No. But I think just a question being asked,
it gets annoying.
When are you going to have children is just as annoying when you are a parent and you're asked, well, when are you going to have a boy? When are you going to have a girl? And I feel like from both sides, we're getting it from both sides.
Yeah,
I already got
when
kids.
Is your kid going to have a kid?
I already got kids.
Oh, man. Grandparenthood. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
That's a whole nother.
Some parents want to be grandparents. So you asking us when we're going to have the third.
Right.
But when is yours going to have the first?
Right. And no, but she made a valid point that these questions, they're unfair because, again, we're trying to break out from not the norm. I'm trying to find the right word. That we're trying to find a different path to having an understanding of how different family units are made of. many family units. We're talking about gay and lesbian families. We're talking about adopted families. We're talking about foster families. We're talking about all different types of
Single
families.
parents do in vitro.
In vitro,
they do,
IFV, and things
IVF,
like
yeah.
that. So there's so many different ways to get to parenthood. But I think the point that Paulette made was fantastic, was that we're not supposed to be questioning those people, those personal type of questions. Like, we're not in the position to do that.
Yeah, but imagine you in her shoes, and now you're getting tired of getting asked this question year after year, day after day.
So then how do you respond?
How do I respond?
How would you respond, Paulette?
Luckily, I don't get asked this anymore.
See?
See?
Because again, I seem to have just pulled into my orbit the people that also don't want children, or who are like you. They're cool parents who don't expect everybody to be a parent. So I don't know if that's because I have just that sabor and flavor that was putting it out there to pull my people in, or I've just been exceptionally lucky, or what. But I don't get asked that anymore. Thank God. And because I also got married later in life, I didn't meet my husband till I was 34. I didn't get married till I was 38. I think the idea that people are having kids later in life is out there, sure, but people knew me. People knew I didn't want kids. So they weren't asking, well, now that you're married, when are you going to start a family? I started a family the day that he put that ring on my finger.
Boom.
The family
Mic drop.
legally started. The Irado family is a family. There are
Mic
two
drop.
of us, and we have 5 plants now. So
They're part of
5 plants.
They're part of the family. But it's so interesting to hear that, because I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. I know, but my only gripe, I do have a gripe when it comes to certain things. I don't like when other people that are child free or refer to their dogs or their pets as their children. That bothers me a little bit.
I'm with you. However,
That bothers me a little bit.
my mother refers to the dogs that belong to my brother's families as her grand puppies. So
See?
Oh yeah. Same thing with our mom.
Yeah,
My
same
brother has two. What he has? He has
Doodles.
He has
right?
doodles. He has 2 doodles.
I
And my
think
grandmother always says the grandpups all the time.
Yeah, here's the thing,
Ahorita
Stephanie. I
nietos.
totally get where you're coming from, because it kind of takes away from what you had to go through to become a mom, right?
Right, right.
I get that. But no one's taking that away from you. You are a mom. You know what it took to bring your 2 boys into this world, to raise them into the young men that they are. No one can take that away from you, no matter what. And people, I think it's always weird when people call inanimate objects their sons or daughters or whatever, or not inanimate, but not adult, not humans. Anyway, so our family is no kids, no pets, no mortgage. So we have plants, but the plants are not going to be hurt if they have to be rehomed.
Technically, depending on the plant, they won't survive out of soil.
Oh,
Depending on the
they're
plant.
What are you talking about?
Depending.
I can only deal with plants that thrive on neglect. So
I got this.
I've designed this life. This life of mine has now been designed to work with me, not against me.
But I just want to ask that question that you always been asked is when did you decide to be child free? And I don't think you made a point of it. It's you never really made a decision. You said that it was something that was innate to you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But do you find your way, do you find a substitute for that? Because I know that if you have so much love to give and you don't have your own children for that, do you find a substitute, or you find it in something else, or you find it in a creative outlet, or there's no need to find a substitute?
See, here's the thing. I don't know what I'm missing out on. So I don't know that I'm substituting for it in any way, because I don't know what it is to have kids. I know what it is to be a titi. I'm a kick-ass titi. I tell the kids, don't do cocaine. I got all the best tips for you on, growing up.
No snorting.
No cocaine. No snorting, no cocaine.
So bad. So bad.
Don't do this. Anyway, I have had this conversation with these kids, but this is my life. I think when you're a parent, you know what it's like not to have kids. And maybe that's where the idea that we're missing out or we're substituting comes from. But so
you can't miss something you never had, right? You can't miss something you never had.
Yeah. I mean, look, there were circumstances I found myself in where being a parent was a possibility. Like I have dated men with kids. It didn't work out for different reasons. It was never the fact that they had kids, although that was an underlying concern. It just didn't work out with them for different reasons, mainly, them, obviously. There was something wrong with them, not me. And so, but after those experiences, it just further cemented that this is my life and this is the way I want to have it, and kids don't fit into it. Do I substitute? I have time to do other things. When we were in the middle of lockdown during the pandemic, it got quiet. I'm sure that my life was a little bit quieter than those who had kids at home and had to homeschool and do their jobs. And I didn't have that. It was a little lonely, just me and my husband cut off from the world. It felt like I have family here in Los Angeles and I couldn't see them. Like this was the extent of interaction, right? So that was hard, but I don't think I would have traded that for something different. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine having to go through that and also care for children.
Yeah, the pandemic has been something that we're still reeling with, and it's been everything that happened and happened for a reason. And the way that things happened, we could have wished for things to be I'm trying to find the right words. Some things we couldn't plan, right? And this was one of those things. But I think that with just trying to survive and just trying to live through life, I think it's just something that we thrive. Just being Latinos, we always got to be scrappy. We always got to be resourceful. We always have to find other means and trying to keep busy and trying to be productive and things like that. But the pandemic was just an example of how either I'm going to be sick of you or I'm going to love you more. Was that the case for you?
Absolutely. I'll tell you something. If I can give some marital advice to your audience, it would be that before you get married, before you sign that legal document, you really know the person that you're marrying. I highly recommend. So I had a roommate in college and she got engaged. She was a few years older than me. She got engaged and she was like, we're going to couples counseling. I was like, why? What's wrong? And she said, nothing. I want to make sure that it stays that way. So my husband and I did that like 10 years later, when I finally met him, when we decided that we were getting married, I was like, we have to go to couples counseling. I want to make sure that we have a strong foundation. It is the best thing we ever did because we knew each other. We knew each other so well, and we had the scripts to deal with the bullshit that happens in relationships, not let it get out of control. So those 2 years, and it's still going on, let's be honest. Surprised we didn't fight more, quite frankly. But we are stronger now than we were then. I mean, he married a fiery Latina, but he's also a very chill dude. So we match perfectly. But, I think part of it was that we did all the work on the front end. So as we're living this life together, we don't let the shit get out of control. And sometimes the shit doesn't even appear because it's like, there's no need to make this into a thing. Let's just have a conversation. We communicate. Right. We have separate spaces in the house. This is another mark of privilege. I'm in my office and he's in his office while he's working from home. And so we're not in each other's spaces. And I think that helps tremendously.
I think because of our schedules that we really don't get sick of each other because we rarely see each other.
Yeah, kind of like it.
That helps too, right? That helps too. My husband was just gone for a week and neither one of us had traveled in so long. And usually it was me who was traveling for work. I'd be gone for 10, 15 days at a time. But I'd be busy. So I didn't have time to miss him. But he was home and I was like, okay, now the shoe's on the other foot. What do I do?
Oh my God.
I know what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
I'm playing Xbox all day.
That's basically what he was doing, right?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
We have an outlet.
So I did a lot of editing.
And soul searching. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know what it is? How we mentioned in the top of the hour, like that we each have to find our identity. And I think I kind of lost myself in the beginning of my pregnancies only because we're trying to make sure we're caring and make sure we're doing all the things we can do. But I've later found out that it's like, I'm not going to be perfect at this. He's not going to be perfect at this. But as long as we try to do it together, like we'll try to figure this out. And I slowly started to gain my identity back really when I started going back to school. And I found myself, it's like, I can be more than one thing. Like, I can be a mom. I can be a podcaster. I can be a good friend. I could be a great wife, a good wife. Could I say great or could I say good?
You say great.
I'll
take great.
You'll take great? Okay. So I'm more than one thing. And I'm learning now that through this podcast that I have such an affinity and I have such a respect for my husband because he balances not only my tempers, he balances between doing his job, which is a very stressful and stressful job for him, very stressful. But he comes home and he still manages to make everybody else laugh at the end of the day.
I might be lazy.
Yeah, you are lazy. That's 100%.
I might not do the dishes or the laundry, but I'll bring in the money.
But let me tell you something. Have I gotten on your case about that?
All the time.
When
the laundry sit there for like a few days. Oh, why the clothes hasn't been folded yet?
Okay, but then you're complaining that you ain't got no underwears in your drawer.
Exactly.
So it doesn't hurt that you pick it up and put it in your drawer and you say, I got clean underwear. But that's besides the point. But those, like, finding our identity, like, when he has his time, like, I let him be. Like, I do not bother him. He's with his friends. He's with playing games. I don't bother him.
Yeah, but my friends are like your friends.
True.
So you know where I'm at.
True.
You find me in the cyberspace.
No. But what I'm saying is that we each have our own identity and we're still a pair.
Of course, we're still a team.
We're still a team. But I think that because we've been together for so long, like, we'll be together
20 years in November.
20 years in November. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. And we've only been married 5? I lost count. No. Wait.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 years.
You sure?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
2017,
anyway.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years, sorry. So with that, you made a great point that we know each other. And the thing is, I don't really think we know each other because there's always something new that we're learning about each other. And I think that I know him to an extent where I give him his space, but I always like to keep things like new. Like, I want to go somewhere new. I want to do something different. And that's how you keep things updated, I guess, if that's the right word.
Yeah. And that's also how you grow together, right? Yeah. It's part of, we all evolve as individuals, right? And you want to make sure you kind of evolve together and grow together. And even if you start growing apart, like, you find the common ground again. I love being married. When people say marriage is hard work, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not my experience. That might be other people's experiences. Maybe they didn't go to counseling before they got married, but we had such a strong foundation. We just continued to build on it. And I'm not saying it's all sausages and rainbows. It's not. There are hard days. There are hard days. But my partner isn't my enemy. My partner and I are on the same team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that with us trying to figure out how can we make life better for each other. And I think we're always trying to figure that out. We're always trying to find the balance. But then sometimes we lose that balance because we're so focused between work, school, kids, house life. So I feel like our outlet is the podcasting. Our outlet is when we have our time separately.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, though. It's a lot of work. And we know that. But you enjoy doing it, don't you?
I do.
I enjoy. I love doing this. I love talking to people. I love interacting. And this is our outlet. And I know that on your podcast, you make it a point that you have to find your creative outlet. You have to.
You gotta have something you do just for you that isn't for consumption, that isn't, whatever, that you just do for the pure joy of it. And that will change over time too. Like, just this week, I'm realizing I hate sewing now. And I did it for 6 years. I have a whole separate website and identity on Instagram around that. Like, I've been on a bunch of podcasts promoting it, and I'm not that person anymore. And I can sit here and feel bad about it, but I can also just enjoy that was the experience I've had for the last 6 years. And now I'm moving on to something else and maybe get a little bit of cash for all the fabric and machines I have. And if not, somebody else, there's a sunk cost thing I'm not even going to worry about. It's now time to find the new creative outlet, something new that gives me joy. I'm going boating next week for the first time ever. I'm going to learn how to boat. I'm going to learn what it is to be a boat captain.
Fun. Have you ever done canoeing or kayaking, anything like that?
I have in Puerto Rico. We went out to one of those luminous bays. It was, oh my God, it was an hour of rafting. Oh my God, that was hard. hospital. Yeah. So I'm going to, maybe next time you see me, I will be a boat captain. Who knows? I'm the
See?
captain now.
See?
Look at me.
Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Oh my God, that's so exciting. That's it. But she made a point that sometimes your hobbies should not be something that you do for money. Again, it has to be something you do for joy.
But if you get paid for it, that's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it.
I mean, if you do, but I'm a firm believer that whatever you do for money is what you do for money. And that's great. More power to that. You should also have something that's just for you. That can be the podcast, that can be playing with the kids, that could be starting a softball team. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just that it's for you. For me right now, it's the gym. And my mom taught me this. I remember when I was like 11 or 12, she told me that her gym time was her me time. And I didn't understand what that meant because I hated working out. I just hated it. I'm like, I'm not athletic. This isn't for me. And in the 30 years since then, I've learned that I love weightlifting. And when I go to the gym, I have no competition but me and gravity. That's it. And it's such an empowering time, and it spills over. It spills over into the rest of my life. The lessons I learned in the gym, I made 3 podcast episodes about it because it's become such an integral part of my being and something I just do for me. I'm not doing it for medals. It's where I burn off all of the self-doubt, all the inner critic bullshit. Anything that is plaguing me and a barbell are going to break through that bullshit. And it is awesome. It is awesome. And it's difficult to describe, but I think everyone needs something like that. Something where it's just them enjoying the experience for nothing else. And obviously I get a health benefit out of it, a huge health benefit, mental and physical and emotional. But that wasn't what got me started going. It's just the benefit. I think everyone needs something in their life like that, where it takes you out of your head and it's just pure joy.
And I think what people find that when they find that creative outlet and they're sitting in that nice, that pocket, I don't know if that's the right word. You're sitting in that nice pocket and you feel like, I can't do no wrong.
It's called creative flow.
Yeah, that's
creative flow.
That's what it is. And it's just like sometimes when you feel that, it's just like, wow, like I didn't know that. I think people are surprised by some of the things, or they amaze themselves. What, like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, I didn't know I was capacity. I didn't know I had the capacity to do that. Right. You know, and I surprise myself sometimes. It's just like, I didn't know I could do that. Well, let me do it again. Let me see if I can do that again. And I think that applies in life in general. And Paulette made a great point that her going to the gym just happens to just take over everything else. It made her such a more powerful individual that doesn't not only powerful in the gym, but she's powerful in her life.
Yeah, when you go to the gym and you get that type of satisfaction, you're in tune with yourself.
How come we don't go to the gym? How come we don't get in tune with ourselves?
Ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody got time for that.
No, that's excuses. That's excuses.
No, you know what it is? I somebody that used to go to the gym all the time. I grew up playing sports. I was always in the gym. I have no passion for it anymore.
Really?
I'd rather just be outdoor.
And do nothing.
Yeah.
Just chill.
That's sad. But I just want to take it another step further. When thinking about the creative outlets, sometimes people take it upon themselves to say, well, having children is my creative outlet. And that's nothing wrong with that either. You know, and I think that people find joy in seeing the growth and seeing just the stages that everyone goes through. But I think we're in a stage right now in our parenthood, like we're newbies. We're complete newbies. Like we don't know a damn thing what's going on. We're just trying to figure it out as we go along. But what we're trying to do is trying to be as open and trying to be understanding of both our friends that do have kids and then our friends that do not. So we're constantly trying to find a balance of how can we still hang out, which we can't really do that anymore. Like we can't hang like we used to.
No. Be like, Ma, can you watch the kids when we go out?
And it's like,
well, in the beginning when we used to go out, we would be early birds. We would come home because we were worried about the kids.
Yeah.
Same thing with vacation. When we started vacationing on our own.
Yeah.
Without the kids, it was always
that was hard
constantly, like every day calling and checking in on them. And by the time we get to a place we're comfortable and enjoy vacation, we got to come home. Always happens like that.
Yeah. No, but I think what we've been trying to do is if we find ourselves worrying about how can we be good parents, being good parents is being healthy for ourselves at that point. If we focus on our mental wellness, then we can ensure that our kids can have mental wellness. And I think that's the importance of that. But that doesn't only apply to just parents. That applies to everybody. But what I want to really talk about is really, if I was not a mom, what would I be doing?
You'll be if you weren't a mom.
If I was not a mom,
you'll probably still be teaching dance. Probably owning your own dance studio. Probably be still an architect. Probably be a licensed architect.
I'd probably still be an architect, right? Yeah. I probably wouldn't be a nurse.
No,
right?
I don't think
probably.
So.
And that's okay. That life paths changes for everybody, and that's okay too. But I know that for Paulette, she has done amazing things in terms of mental wellness, making sure that you guys are aware of your mental wellness and everything in encompassing that. But I want to know, how can we get past that idea, that stigma of motherhood? Because again, it's always about identity, right? It's always like, I'm only this one thing. How can we get past that stigma? Like, if you're not a true woman, if you're not a mom, or like, I've heard that before. Like, how can we get away from that idea?
That's toxic. It is, but I think it gets even worse. I had this conversation with my mom because I actually interviewed my mom for the podcast so I could get her perspective on what it's like to have a child-free child. What's that like for her? And we even talked about the whole grandparent question, like, are people entitled to grandparents? And she was decidedly on the side of no, they are not, which was surprising to me. And it shouldn't have been because my mom gets it. But anyway, back to your question. We were talking about how there's further divide among mothers of those who like gave birth naturally versus C-section. And why? I don't understand
they feel
that.
like they're not true parents. They're not true mothers because they didn't push them out.
But what about the people who adopted or had to have a surrogate carry? Like, are they not true mothers either? What a terrible, diabolical, toxic thing to even consider, much less believe. So there's a lot of toxicity in our society that is just normalized. And that's one of them. The idea that you're not a real woman if you're not a mother is just like one of the many ideas floating around out there that are disgustingly wrong.
It's terrible.
Yeah, like when I think about parenthood, especially motherhood, it doesn't necessarily, like you said, doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to push them out. It could be somebody that just take them under their wing. There's plenty of movies out there that give that example.
Name one.
Hannah, a show, Hannah, where he took the girl under her wing and she called it, and she saw him as a father figure. There's plenty of stories like that.
Yeah, I don't think that was a great example because he was training to kill her, to be a trained killer. Still, I don't know if that's the best idea. I don't know if that's the best movie example.
You know what I'm saying? It does, like I said, just because it's not yours, it didn't come out of you, doesn't mean that you're not the parent.
Why do you keep saying out of you? Why do you keep saying that?
Here's another thing I would love to normalize, that not everybody wants kids. So the idea that in almost every popular show, movie, when someone starts off not having children, by the end they do, and they're so happy. Like, did you guys watch Bones? That show Bones?
No.
She was like a forensic anthropologist or something, and the FBI guy. And so she never wanted children. And then all of a sudden one night they get together and oops, she's pregnant. And now she suddenly wants a kid. And it was just, it was so against character. And the writing just got bad after that, and the acting got worse. So I stopped watching. And it wasn't because all of a sudden a child-free character had a child, but it seemed like too big of a hill to like get over that really would have happened if those were real people. And plenty of people exist. Again, this is why my podcast exists, that don't fall into that trope. So could we start normalizing the conversation away from it and just show happy people without children who feel fulfilled, this is their family, as also a part of popular media. And then hopefully a side effect of that is removing the idea that motherhood is the only true way to be a woman and all of that bullshit that goes with that. I think those two things could go hand in hand.
There's plenty of actresses that don't have kids. One of them, Oprah, she even said it. She even mentioned it. She doesn't want any kids. Her legacy is her show. Her show is syndicated. She's going to live on. She probably, when she passes away, she'll probably give her money to charities. She's giving back in other ways.
So if she was to have kids, is that her breaking character?
Yeah, because I'm just saying. Because 50, 60 years, all she's been preaching, like no kids, and boom, now she has kids.
No, but
Jennifer Aniston's another one.
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair to say like maybe people change their mind along the way.
Sarah Paulson, off the top of my head, they publicly said that they don't want any kids.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm agreeing.
I wish that more people would just accept them at their word. They are allowed to change their mind. If Oprah suddenly decided she wanted to have kids, she's allowed to make that decision, but we shouldn't bank on it. That's what I'm trying to get, is that we can accept that people don't want kids, but in the back of the mind, because this is what we see play out on TV, eventually they'll change their mind. But that shouldn't be the expectation.
Right. And I only laugh because Oprah ain't having no children now. Come on now. Come on now.
She probably got dogs. She probably got dogs or cats or birds.
No. No, but I'm pretty sure she has family. She probably has a long family and plenty of people to share the wealth with. I mean, not that she has to, but I'm just saying, like, there's plenty of love. She's had so many relationships developed over the years. I mean, she's more than one thing. Mm-hmm. She's more than one thing. But I just want to ask about legacy. Like, for us, we always talked about what is our legacy for our kids and what do we do for future generations and things like that. Like, how do child-free people or children-free people go on and have a legacy? Or does legacy doesn't have to necessarily have to deal with children? I think that's my question.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to look at legacy, and one of them is children. I hope that people who are having children are raising well-adjusted, healthy adults. That should be the legacy, that they can then pass on their genes to more healthy, well-adjusted adults. Now, we live in the society we live in, so they're going to pick up some bullshit. But,
along the way.
And a lot of it. So there's going to be a lot of things they have to unlearn anyway. So when people ask me about legacy and children, my question back to them is, what were your great-grandparents' names? And 9 times out of 10, they do not know. I don't know my great-grandparents' names either. The idea of legacy is a nice one, but the truth is you stop mattering after a certain amount of time. And you should, because your children then become their own individuals with their own identities. And after they have children, maybe, and those children have children, the job is done. Like, your job was to raise healthy adults, right? Like, healthy humans to become well-functioning adults. But it isn't just limited to having children. You can also have children and have buildings named after you. You can also give money to cancer research and end up with the wing of a hospital in your name. You can be Oprah and have this plethora of media that you are leaving behind. There are so many ways to make an impact. And I think the idea of legacy comes from our idea that we want to leave something behind. We want to leave a mark. We want to leave an impact. And the idea that it's in our genes and being carried on in a name and stuff like that is nice. It's comforting, but it's not the only way. And my legacy is coming from wanting to change this conversation. And I know that I've made an impact on the people in my life. I know that there are at least 4 children in this world that when they are offered cocaine, they're going to think twice about that because Fifi told them, do not do cocaine. Okay. And if that's the only lesson I imparted on these kids, also to wear sunscreen, I've done my job. I can go to bed at night knowing that if I die tomorrow, I have made some impact. I don't need it to last longer than that. And nobody's does. Unless you're a Vanderbilt who everybody knows your name 5 generations down the line, but they don't necessarily know your name for good reason. He was a robber baron. Like, the idea of legacy is tied up in wanting to extend our lives further than we're given. And it's a comfort. But there's more than one way for a legacy to be felt. And the smaller impact is the better impact.
Yeah. Traditions are one of them. We leave behind traditions. and we'll leave. Hopefully, our kids follow. Because like one thing we do, we go camping every year. We've been going 10 years straight. And hopefully when the kids get older, they continue that tradition. And that will be our legacy besides our podcast.
Right. But the thing is that in our trying to do traditions and legacy, there was no children attached to that. The point was for them to do a gathering of us camping and gathering of friends and family.
Yes.
That we didn't attach to that saying, oh, you must have children to continue the legacy of camping. Or
no, I think once we're gone, I think they will continue it with their kids. I think they will.
Right, but we're assuming that they're going to have kids.
Well, like I said, if they have kids. Or when they have kids.
No, but the legacy is us having that camping trip for them to have a gathering.
Right, it's the gathering of friends and family.
It's the
it doesn't
gathering.
have to be with kids.
Right.
Because we have plenty of friends that come with us that don't have kids.
Right. And I think that's the point. I think that's the point that we're trying to do. Like,
we're leaving our legacy in the forms of storytelling. We have our podcast.
Right.
It's cemented into the internet. In the future, if they have kids, if they want their kids to know their great-grandparents or grandparents, then, oh, look, my parents did a podcast when they were younger. Just listen to them. You want to get to know them? Here it is. Boom. This is our way of cementing our legacy.
Right. But she's saying that you can do that without children.
Of course.
Right. I think that's the point.
I understand.
You guys are funny.
But Paulette, I don't know if there's any final thoughts that you could leave with us or any final words of wisdom, because I've had an amazing time with you. We have to have you back on again.
Oh, I would love that. I'd love that. I really thank you both for the support. When you first floated the idea of talking about the child-free topic on a family forward podcast, I was a little hesitant, to tell you the truth. And I know that you're cool people. I've met you in person, so I had no reason to be fearful. But there's always that little bit of, is this going to be an us versus them situation, which, like I told you, I've tried to avoid because I don't believe in that dynamic. I'm just a person. We're all just people. We're on this planet for a finite amount of time. Why fight? Why create these artificial divisions? So I really am thankful and grateful for you inviting me on and allowing me this time to talk about it. And hopefully, if people want to continue the conversation, I'm on Instagram. I always say at the end of my podcast, DM me if you want to discuss the podcast further, because if there are questions, I'm not trying to recruit people to be child-free. Again, I just was born this way. But if you have questions, maybe you're questioning whether or not kids are in your future, like I can talk about that with you. That's fine. Or what it's like to be a Latina and dealing with these issues. I've got space in my life to discuss those things if you would like.
So I want to thank my guest, Paulette, for coming on to the show today. Paulette, can you tell us where they can find you?
Yeah, the Maker Muse podcast is on every single platform available, hopefully. If you can't find it where you listen to your podcast, let me know. We will add it, the Maker Muse podcast. And I am on Instagram as themakermuse.co. That's also my website, themakermuse.co. not .com. You can find me on Twitter and TikTok and Facebook, The Maker Muse, or themakermuse.co.
Absolutely. But I want to thank you again, Paulette, for taking the time and joining us today on this podcast. I thought that this is just a conversation that's just as important as anything else, especially for our family, because we have amazing friends that do not have children, and we have amazing friends that do have children, and we love both spaces. And for us personally, I cannot thank you enough. I really appreciate you coming on, giving us dropping knowledge, because there's other people that are out there. Yes, we are a family podcast, but we want to promote healthy conversations, not necessarily only family conversations, but just overall any family. But we want like friendly, productive conversations. But I mean, definitely we have to have you on in another episode. We'll definitely follow up and talk about all these things. Do not forget to follow the Maker Muse podcast. She is on all platforms. You can find her everywhere. You can personally DM her. Check her on Instagram. She is constantly on Instagram. She's asking you questions. Okay. You need to answer those questions because she's going to give it to you. Also follow her on Facebook. She has this amazing Facebook group. They're always doing great content. They're always talking about books, information that is just about you being creative. That's definitely what we need. We all need that in our life. But again, I want to thank Paulette for coming on the show. Again, this is Table for Four, a family conversation. We're talking all things family and everything in between. Don't forget to follow our live sessions. Hey, there's one of them.
There's a little guy.
Say hi. So don't forget to follow, like, and share. We're on all platforms. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. And where else are we on?
Castbox, TuneIn, Stitcher.
I mean, Spotify.
We're like on 16 different platforms right now.
And it's super cool. But, you know, we're trying to work on this new season, trying to figure out new topics. Maybe Paulette can give us some ideas for the new season because we need them. But I can't thank you enough so much, Paulette. And I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
No, that's it.
That's it, man. This is Stephanie.
This is Andre.
And we'll see you on the next episode, guys.